Welcome back to another episode of the Carbon Cardboard Podcast covering the Formula One card hobby. I'm your host, Bryan, joined as always with Scott from the P1 Castle.
We're back.
You're back. The Picassels.
The Picassels are back from Austria.
I had to. I was telling my wife, I think yesterday, that you were on your trip and coming back. She's like, Scott. I'm like, Card Scott. Like, oh yeah. Like, I'm like the Picasso. She's like, that's it.
I love it.
She's got way too much on her mind right now with tax season. But yeah. So how was the trip, Scott?
It was great. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Honestly, one of the best things about Salzburg, which is where we went in Austria, is the scenery. We did a helicopter ride and just where we were kind of looking up the Untersberg Mountain and all the other mountains near the Swiss mountain range. Basically, it was just the Alps. It was amazing. Like just driving around, honestly, is crazy because you're just like, wow, look at the mountains, look at everything. So yeah, it was cool. It was a lot of fun. We did some cool things. We went to it's called Dinner with Mozart. And so you have dinner and there's like a small orchestra and opera. Really it's like two people singing and four people playing kind of for you while you're eating dinner in between sets and stuff. And it was fun. Actually, if you follow my personal Instagram, you would have seen that at one point, one of the guys singing the opera selected me, I guess, and had me up there acting like I was conducting the orchestra and walking around making a fool of myself. But it was fun. It was good. It was good fun. But yeah, overall, great trip. Long trip though. Good to be back. It was awesome seeing Sebastian once we got back. Now he's asleep. I'm still adjusting to the time and everything. Like I took a quick nap before this podcast. And yeah, I'll be up for a while now, going through everything. I mean, gosh, tell you what, you run a business, you go away for a week. A lot of stuff going on. So yeah, we'll be getting to that over the next.
We'll be catching up. So we'll be catching up on the on-track stuff. So we are going to talk about Suzuka, the potentially Monaco 2.0 at this point. We got Finest releasing this week, Scott. We're going to a little bit more details about that. We can't really show anything, even though it looks like if you were to search eBay, there's quite a few of the cards out there. They were breaking cards in China. A lot of cards.
Yeah. China does not care.
No, they don't. So, but we will not be showing any of those on this podcast and our podcast later in the week after release day comes and goes. You've had the opportunity to open some legitimately. We will then talk about kind of first impressions and things to be excited about with the new and last set of the 2024 Formula One season.
Yeah, I will say it was funny when we got home. So we flew into Newark and then we had like a 3-hour drive back home. And as we rounded the bend onto our street, we could see on our porch our cases of Finest just sitting there because they actually arrived today. So, well, if you're listening to this, they got here yesterday on Monday. But yeah, just a ton of cases just sitting on our front step as you do. Stacked up.
Your neighborhood, you don't have to worry about that too much. So
yeah, hopefully.
Yes. All right. So and obviously, big sales, good cards got graded. A couple other things to cover. Grid gainers, Scott. I think this has been really good. A lot of good feedback about this. So we're gonna keep going. We got a little bit of a different. Maybe less labor intensive, both on our end and on F1 Ben each week going forward. I think we've got a good format.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, let's talk Suzuka. And because you and I both like to talk, we're actually going to go down just to 2 grid gainers each. You led off last week. I'm going to lead off this week. I will have you doing most of the talking here, as you do on the show, because you are the brains and I am just the man behind the desk of the computer here.
Quarterback. Point guard. Yeah.
Max Verstappen. Winner, pole position. Before we even talk about the card, Scott, perhaps one of the best qualifying laps that you can ask for.
It was a scintillating lap. Oh my gosh. I was watching it I think we were still in Austria at that time. I was like, oh man, what just happened with that lap? I was not expecting that at all. I mean, all the way through their first run in Q3, I thought for sure it was just a McLaren v McLaren shootout.
Lando had sector 1, Piastri had sector 2 and 3, but somehow Verstappen found, I mean, it was the three of them were so close at the front, and that ultimately is what I think won Max the race. He did not make an error. I think McLaren, depending on who you ask, maybe could have tried some different things, but you cannot take away from the fact that now in 3 races, we have 3 race winners. Verstappen wins a race again he's had a win every year of his career, correct? Since 2018?
So since 2016.
2016.
Yeah. So basically, ever since he got promoted to Red Bull, he didn't win anything in 2015 when he was with Toro Rosso.
Gotcha. Okay. I know you'd have the facts straight here. So again, I mean, 1 point off of Lando Norris at this point for the championship lead. It's a 1-horse race. McLaren has probably the constructor at this point, as long as they don't have any issues with the car and nobody else can make the leap on them, they're going to have an issue later in the year if they don't prioritize one or the other. And I know that, McLaren has always had, 2 number 1 drivers for the most part when they have a strong car. But Scott, Max is here to let everybody know that, hey, don't forget about me. I'm the 4-time world champion. And, if he keeps pumping in performances like this, I mean, he may be the 5-time world champion at this point, which would be a huge, like, that to me would be probably his crowning achievement of his career so far, just because the car, as his teammate changed, and we'll talk about one of his new teammates here, the car is just so difficult. So, I mean, it just, I'm gushing about Max's talent here. And this is almost as I do love and appreciate Max. He's not my favorite driver, and not one that I particularly like to collect like a ton of his CADs. Man, just mark it up. I think if it had dipped it at all, this just proves the fact that you've got a really safe investment here in your personal collection.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because 2 things I'll touch on here. And one of them is that I feel like, especially in 2021, maybe 22, 23, you got a lot of posts throughout the hobby. Not my favorite driver, but you got to respect him. And like people posting their cards and everything. And then there was a little bit less of that last year. And I feel like there's going to be even less of that, because I think the hobby kind of is turning around and coming around to Verstappen in terms of him being more likable. And I think part of it, 2021, obviously extremely tight and, very close battle with Hamilton. So didn't make a lot of friends there. We had the Drive to Survive stuff. And then he's just dominating in the car in 2022, 2023, and that's not fun. And then 2024, it was like, oh, okay, we're getting close here. And now, and I remember hearing this on the Race podcast, I feel like he's like relishing this like almost underdog type capacity he's got here, which is hilarious, calling Verstappen an underdog. But in the car that he has, I mean, he is. And to put in that lap is just unbelievable. And I remember in the post-race, or actually post-qualifying press conference, they were asking him like, oh, how do you think about the car? Where's the car? And he basically told everyone, like, the car's not in a good spot. He said, I thought I almost crashed, or I was going to crash 5 times around the lap. Like, he put everything he possibly could in and just full send. Right. And it's not good balance. Like that's basically been his complaint throughout the entire season. And a lot of, towards the end of last year, was that the car just does not have good balance. And it's on such a knife's edge. And so then someone in the press corps asked him, what's it like to finally have the car the way you want it? And Max is like, excuse me? Sorry? What? Have you not heard me talk this entire last time? And he said, and I think this is family friendly enough, but he said, I think if you drive it, you would poop your pants, which made everybody laugh in the press conference. And he actually said it that way too. He didn't swear. And he's like, is that allowed? Is that okay?
It's allowed here.
So, yeah. And I think
most of us all have young kids, so.
Right. And so I think Max is, he's becoming more likable. And yeah, I mean, listen, he's always been phenomenally talented. And this is I feel like a better way to showcase your talent. It's always fun to see the driver in maybe not the best car to put in a good performance. I remember in 2020 when Mercedes had Das and Hamilton, Bottas crushing everybody. Max kind of saved that season a little bit. And I remember Martin Brundle saying, thank God for Verstappen. Otherwise, it would just be the 2 Mercedes. So, and you had mentioned on a previous podcast that you thought that this may turn into a 2016 season, right? Rosberg, Hamilton, with the 2 McLaren drivers. And Max is basically, like you said, saying, here I am. And he's hopefully going to prevent a 2-horse race. I will say McLaren still definitely looks like they've got the best car. I mean, they were 400ths away from, I think if Max qualifies 3rd, those 2
are gone.
Have a 1-2. Yeah. So I mean, it's and I think we're going to see some of that in Bahrain. But yeah,
and Jeddah.
It's been awesome.
But yeah, anyway, so like, again, one of the parts of this segment is looking at cards that are attainable, liquid. There's a lot of them.
Tell me about the CADs.
The CADs. So you've got to go with the Sapphire portrait, as we say. 2020 Sapphire. If they're, again, we're going to sound like a broken record. If a driver has 2020 cards, that's the go-to. PSA 10, I did not look at the pop of this one, but give or take, depending on how Max is performing, it's plus or minus about $300. It might be a little up now, just because of recency bias here. So that was where some of you can go. Definitely in between the 2 cards I've got here on screen is potentially the Sapphire image variation, but Scott, We've talked about it. The 2020 Topps Chrome image variations, short print on the label from PSA, the sitting variations, they're so iconic. I've said it so many times in 44 episodes that I would just want to do a whole segment on the IVs from 2020. Only a pop 35, Scott, with a PSA 10 of this Max Verstappen. I think you guys sold one in the
sold a couple
in the Fanatics auction right before the season. So again, very rare condition wise. I think even as a PSA 8, PSA 9, it's going to look great. But man, if you can get a PSA 10, one of the 35 in the world of this right now, there's only 300 total. And I'll tell you, Scott, I've seen at least 5 to 10% of these, I feel like, and there's not a lot of them that fall into that 10 category. I think we've gemmed a few, but it's so hard.
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of the core of the segment now, right? It's a card that's liquid, like the Verstappen 2020 Sapphire portrait. You're going to see tons of sales of that card. You're going to see it's readily available. If you go on eBay right now, I'm sure there's at least 10 copies of that, even in a PSA 10. But that's a great card to have. And then you go all the way up to, right, this is a Grail card, that Max Verstappen PSA 10 Chrome image variation. We sold 2 of them, one for around 45, one for around 5,000. So they're in that, if you could maybe sneak a deal on it, I don't know. They're in like I would say 4,000 to 5250 or something, 4250 to 5250 range. So it's an expensive card, right? And that's what we're trying to point out here with one of the second cards that we have. But it's an amazing card if you can swing it. That's a great card to have. That is a Grail piece for any Verstappen collector. And if you want to go somewhere in the middle, hey, you can pick up a PSA 9 Chrome image variation or 8, like you said, and it wouldn't break the bank. So yeah, beautiful cards. Definitely have no issues with your selections there.
And I mean, with 2020, anytime you've got the 8s or the 9s, the fronts still look great. The condition and why those score so poorly at PSA, or I should say, grade poorly at PSA, is the back. Whether the peels on the left or the right edge, sometimes there's indentations in the middle, just edge wear. The front still looks phenomenal. So you might even be able to save yourself some money there. So Max Verstappen was my pick. First time we've mentioned him on Grid Gainers, and rightfully so. I mean, what a weekend from the world champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, so my first Grid Gainer may come as a surprise to some people, but I'll kind of talk through it here. So Yuki Tsunoda is my Grid Gainer. And now you'd think after his race performance coming home 12th, maybe not, qualifying was amazing. However, you have to remember that this is kind of, from where we were last time we did one of these segments, he's now been promoted to Red Bull. So his cards have jumped significantly since that. But also through FP1, FP2, FP3, even in Q1, I mean, Yuki has been the closest to Max that we've seen in a while. So I think, just unfortunately, and he had mentioned it, his tire prep kind of let him down in that Q2 lap. I think we're going to see Yuki Tsunoda in Q3 regularly pretty soon. You got to remember, this is the first time he was in the car. He didn't get to do, preseason testing with it. But we're going to be headed to Bahrain next week in a track that everyone did testing on. So he'll be very familiar with the circuit. I think Yuki's going to be regularly in Q3 and as close to Max as we've seen in a long time. And I think that is important for his card market. Now, for the very liquid card, going similar to you here, 2020 Sapphire Portrait. So now this isn't a rookie card, but it is a Future Stars card. And one of the reasons I love it is that in his Future Stars card, he is in a Red Bull advertising suit, or a Red Bull sponsored suit, because in his F2 he was obviously a Red Bull junior driver, so he's pictured here in a Red Bull suit that looks very similar to the suit that he wears now. So this is actually the only card, 2020 is the only year that you're going to find him wearing kind of a Red Bull suit, so to speak. So I really like the look of that. I like how that matches with ultimately we'll see some Red Bull cards of him, I think, in 2025. I don't know. I mean, whenever you get these mid-season swaps, I would imagine we'll see him in a Red Bull suit. But for now, this is a great card. This is also, this is one you're going to be able to pick up cheap, right? I think like comps on this were around like 30 to 40 bucks. This is really not going to break the bank at all. Now, who knows where they'll be, over the next month or so, but that's a card that is very attainable, and is a really nice card to have. In terms of a Grail card, I am going with, and this one actually, shameless plug, is for sale in P1 Castle Premium Consignment. But this is the Yuki Tsunoda Superfractor Auto BGS 9 Auto 10 from 2021, which is his rookie card auto. Now, important to note here, in 2021, for whatever reason, Topps decided to leave the rookie card badge off of the autographs, which is a little annoying, but it is his rookie card autograph, right? This is his first year in Formula One. He's pictured in his AlphaTauri suit. So this is honestly one of his best cards in the world, I would say, with his Superfractor rookie card auto. That's really hard to beat. But, obviously there's only one of these in the world, but I would say even a red out of 5 2021 rookie card auto of Yuki would be considered, a crowning jewel of any collection. But yeah, it's tough to beat the Superfractor.
Yeah. One other thing too, I'd like to go get in our time machine here, Scott, is to tell Yuki to sign with a blue pen instead of a black Sharpie, because all of his autographs in 2021 were all with a black Sharpie marker.
Yeah, this one looks pretty good though.
I mean,
because there were some that were bad.
There were. I'll save my Becca comments for another. I think everybody kind of knows how I kind of feel about BGS at this point. But yeah, I have to agree. Very popular driver of the day, even though he finished 12th. He did move up a couple places in the race. I think. Yeah, which is actually kind of a big accomplishment because like the top 6 finished in the same order that they qualified. So
past Lawson on lap 1.
Suzuka, like, it's such an iconic track. You got to be technically sound. I mean, Scott, I think I saw a stat like only drivers are only on their brakes like 11% of the lap. Like,
yeah, that's the main issue.
That's the main issue is like, and so many of the drivers afterwards, like Ollie Behrman, Kimi, who we'll talk about here in a second, they're like your 53 qualifying laps here. It's just, flat out, which makes it a really good technical challenge. But on the other hand, it's so hard to pass, and there's only one DRS zone. So I don't know. Maybe they'll do something to spice it up, as you would say, in following seasons. But still, masterclass by Max. Like to see Yuki getting close and getting that opportunity. We haven't really had a chance to cover it since that news broke.
Yeah, I think overall, despite if you look at it on paper, Max P1, Yuki P12, it's like, oh man, how is that? But honestly, I think there are a lot of positives to take away from the weekend as a whole for Yuki. So, I still think he can hang his head on that. And I think ultimately Suzuka, it's a skinny circuit as well. The cars take up basically half of the tarmac around the lap. And now that 130R is flat, it's tough. It's tough to find places to pass. So you basically have to have, almost a second on the person in front in terms of lap time to be able to get by. So yeah, it's tricky. Hopefully they can figure something out. Ultimately, Formula One's going to have to deliver a formula where the cars are a little bit easier to pass, or we're going to see less circuits like this, right? I mean, there were less overtakes here than in Monaco last year, which is a scary stat.
Yikes. Again, good pick there. Again, card prices really only have anywhere to go but up at this point. So we'll definitely follow that pretty closely as the season goes on. All right,
so
my second and final pick here, Scott, it was somebody that's been in the Grid Gainers every single week because I don't think we can talk about this kid enough. Kimi Antonelli. Just it's hard to, or I guess easy to forget that this kid's only 18 years old. And for me, the thing that really put him on the radar here, the youngest driver to ever lead a Formula One race, the youngest driver to ever get fastest lap. Unfortunately, did not get the record for youngest ever Formula One record winner. That still goes to Max at this point. But I tell you what, Scott, it just continues to impress, has not stepped a foot wrong, and again, it's only 3 races in, but I think the faith that Toto Wolff and Mercedes put in Antonelli here at this point was well placed. He has not seemed out of place. He's not a fish out of water. he's put the car right where it needs to. He has not crashed. He has, qualified well, or I should say, when he didn't qualify well, he still moved up through the field and finished well, which is extremely important. Well spoken. We've talked about it. I mean, I listened and watched him after the race talking to the F1 TV crew. Just, I think the one thing that's going to help him going forward too is just his likability. I mean, I think even if he does not win races, he's going to be a fan favorite, for sure.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think he came in, as a fan favorite, and he's just continuing to push that narrative. He's a good kid, right? He's not aggressive in any way like some other young drivers were when they first came in. And like you said, this was actually the last race that he had the opportunity to take leading a lap, or leading a race, or if he had won, kind of youngest driver to win a race, because obviously Max 2016 Spain is where he accomplished all those feats. So yeah, Kimi at the last gasp was able to take that away. But yeah, really good drive from Antonelli, and he continues to kind of prove why Mercedes put their faith in him. There were some question marks. Everyone's like, oh, I don't know. F2 season hasn't been, lighting the world on fire. Is he really ready to be in a Mercedes right away? And I think he's showing that he is. But yeah, so what cards you got?
And he's been close to George. I mean, George is off to the best start of his career at this point. Mr. Consistency. He did not fall forward enough to get a podium at Suzuka, as he's been very opportunistic about that. But again, surprisingly, Scott, there's not a lot of the pot, but I have to imagine this is going to grow again. Sapphire 2024, Kimi has his first appearance, F2 Prima, but again, looking very Mercedes-esque with the Mercedes logo on there, a black fire suit. And these were going for between like $80 and $100 recently as a PSA 10, which is great because raw it's about $15 to $20. So again, a lot of these are not going to be PSA 10 quality that you get with a lot of the Sapphire base. But I mean, Sapphire, and I guess this is something we haven't really ever covered either too. With Chrome, a base card that's not even a refractor. I mean, it's great for collecting. It's great for building a set, great for building a binder. The collectability is because there's so many of them, especially once you get past 2020, that those aren't usually graded, and they're more affordable to collect. With Sapphire, because of the boxes and cases are so expensive, even the base Sapphire cards are very short printed overall. So those become desirable. And for the last couple of years, there have been in the realm of the 2020 original set. So even though it's a air quote base card, there's still a lot of collectability to the Sapphire portraits for them. So I think this is going to be something going forward that we'll definitely want to keep tabs on with that base card.
Yeah, and I think part of what we talk about here is not only hey, this is a card that you can pick up, but it's a liquid card, right? There are a lot of people who are trying to buy it. So if you've got one, there's a market to sell into for sure. And I can only imagine how many folks who either bought into Kimi brakes or, rip Sapphire themselves, have a few of these laying around. It might be time to take a look at them, break out the centering tool. And if it passes the centering and it looks like it's got no issues, I mean, if you can gem this, it's a nice turn up.
Yeah, like 4 or 5x at least at this point, as long as he continues to stay hot with his performance. So
for sure.
I don't think we've seen Kimi's best cards at this point, but I mean, if you're going to, superfractors aside, 101s, if you can get a red Kimi, and on screen here was an example that we had come through People and Castle grading earlier this season. Red is where it's going to be. So we've got a red Ray Wave, because that's a tongue twister. Again, anytime you've got anything, gosh, even under 10, you got a purple and Sapphire, a red across the board is out of 5. He's only going to have so many first appearance cards. And he does have the unfortunate I don't even know what the word I'm looking for here, but because there's been more 2024 sets than normal and more 2024 sets that have included F2 drivers, there's more first appearance cards for Kimi than say that there was for Oscar Piastri. So that does kind of work against him. But I mean, if this kid continues to perform and continues to be a fan favorite, you're going to want some of the really rare cards here before we have the chance in 2025 when he's in his official Mercedes suit and we've got his official rookie cards.
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's a good point you make, right? The more sets there are, the more readily available cards are of a certain driver. If you're looking for cards that you consider, grail pieces, or they're going to be more valuable, you've got to look at more rare cards, right? So that's why, at Max, we're looking at something where it's, Pop 35 from 2020. This is a card that, first of all, it's only 5 copies of, but in a PSA 10, I mean, the Pop is going to be under 5, you would imagine. So, you got to look at that really rare stuff. And that's a beautiful card. Also, there's probably no way that we'll ever see all 5 red Ray Waves come out, because there's no way that all of the qualifying lap will ever get ripped to bring out all 5 of these cards. So good shout on bringing that one in.
All right, that is Kimi, and Scott's last and second driver here is...
Ooh, baby. Let's talk about Isack Hadjar. I was calling him Hadj God in our chat, our P1 Castle Legends chat, because Hadjar has been awesome ever since he binned it on the formation lap in Australia. He's been phenomenal. He did a great job in the Chinese Grand Prix, and now again, especially in qualifying, he did a phenomenal job in Japan. And then, of course, the Ferrari is going to have a lot more pace. So I wouldn't besmirch him for letting Hamilton pass, but ultimately to finish in 8th, I mean, right now, Isack Hadjar has more points than any other Red Bull or V-Carb related driver in the championship. He's second place to Max Verstappen in terms of those 4 drivers. So Hadjar's had a great start to the year. And honestly, I remember talking in that group chat. Obviously you got a lot of slack for, binning it on the formation lap in Australia. But I said this about other drivers too, especially rookie drivers, is listen, it's all about how you bounce back. And Hadjar has bounced back over these last 2 races, and especially here in Japan. Amazing job in qualifying, given that he was dealing with some issues that only male drivers might deal with in the cockpit, and he drove around it. Some funny radio messages to unpack, but yeah, he did a great job in qualifying to battle through that, and then did a great job in the race. So I mean, Hadjar has been, I think, one of the best rookies. Honestly, there's been some really good performances by a lot of the rookies so far this year, but Hadjar, I would put up there with the best, right? We've talked about Kimi Antonelli a lot. I think I'd throw Hadjar in the ring if we're going to do rookie of the year, right? Which we've got to, now that I mention it, at the end of the year, we've got to do rookie of the year. We'll do like a poll, get everything out there. We'll have members of the press vote. But Hadjar's just been phenomenal. And in terms of cards that you can pick up, you've got 2 years to choose from, right? You have 2023, which is going to be his first appearance. And by the way, they're both F2 cards. But you've got his first appearance in 2023, or you have the more recent 2024. They're going to be F2 cards. So you generally think you'd want to go towards that first appearance of 2023. But I think there's a unique card here that is very liquid. You're going to see a lot of copies of these, but I really like the 2024 Sapphire autograph, because this is the first year that they've done kind of the base suite of autographs in Sapphire. And this is something you're going to see pop up. There's a lot of these. if you open a few cases of Sapphire, you're bound to get a couple. So, there's a decent amount of these. I haven't checked the pop, but, I'd probably try to stick, if you could, to the PSA 10. Even PSA 10s of these, they're in like the $100 to $150 range. So it's not going to break the bank. And it's a very unique card, being the first year that they've done Sapphire autos outside of the Sapphire selections. So nice card for Hadjar there, readily available. Or if you've got one, it's something you could grade and sell. So I really like that card. And then if we're going to a Grail piece, then of course I do kind of have to revert to first year, right? If you're picking between 2 years of F2 cards, and this would be the same thing if we were talking about Oliver Behrman, right? You're gonna want to be in that first year if you're comparing like for like, and it's harder to get better than his one of one Pad Paraja, given that in Sapphire they didn't have autographs in 2023. So this is literally his best Sapphire card from 2023. You can make an argument this card versus maybe the 2024 Sapphire autograph, Pad Paraja. But yeah, this is an amazing card. This card also for sale. P1 Castle.
I see what you did there, my friend.
Listen, it's not my fault that a lot of the Grail pieces seem to make their way through P1 Castle Premium Consignment. Folks want to get the most for their cards, and we want to put some Grails in people's hands. You can head over to p1castle.com potentially and pick this card up. But yeah, I mean, this is a beautiful card, and for Hadjar, it is without a doubt one of his best cards. So this is something that I'm going to put up there as a Grail. There are also some other, ways you could go. You could go with a red out of 5 auto from Chrome from 2023, or even a red portrait 2023 Sapphire. I would, again, stick to 2023 if you're trying to get the best of the best. But yeah, beautiful card. Can't go wrong. And Hadjar, if he continues to perform, I mean, I think he came in this year as one of the biggest unknowns, or maybe one of the drivers that people are like, I don't know. And I feel like that's just virtue of him being the last person to get the seat, right? Everyone else had been sorted. And then it's like, oh, well, now they give it to Hadjar. So he's got to be the 20th best driver on the grid, right? No, he's showing that he's got what it takes to be in Formula One. And I think a lot of people are going to start coming around on Hadjar. And yeah, we'll have to see where his card market goes.
And if you're looking for any Hadj, definitely hit up G. Myers, Glenn, and
so
KC.
He can tell you he's not selling.
Yeah, he's got all of the Hadj. Glenn has been on the Hadj train since last year on the 2023 stuff. So good on you, Glenn. I love to see it. I love seeing, he's showing me all of his. I think he was going for like 100 Chrome autos or some silly thing like that. Not silly as a collector.
He's got like 13 or 14 gold Sapphire portraits. Poor Casey's trying to get one.
Oh man, that's it's funny because as somebody that does not collect as a diehard, that might seem really silly. But if you are in the throes of it, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
All right, Scott, let's just kind of go through quickly. We've got Topps Finest releasing this week. You've got a stream set up on Fanatics Live already. Thursday. So Thursday is going to be April 10th is going to be release day. Lots of cases and breaks already posted. Like I said, we're not going to show any of the images of cards that have been kind of illegitimately pulled in China at this point, but we can talk through some of the interesting things that we've noted already at this point to get you even more excited about the release on Thursday.
Yeah, and then we should, fingers crossed, should have a podcast coming out later this week where we can kind of really dive in, and we'll have opened some of the cards.
So, I mean, on screen here, some of the images we've already shown, some of the facsimiles from Topps. I will say that if you can see the Hamilton on screen, looks very similar to the portrait cards that we have been ripped and opened. So there's not a lot of huge differences here. So go to eBay and do all your own searching. You're just not going to show it here.
Yeah, it is worth noting that, and we'll talk about this, but the checklist, everyone was worried, oh man, 300 cards in the checklist. It's really just 100 in the base set, right? It's the fact that you've got the common, uncommon, and rare. And I think this Hamilton pictured is a rare. You can tell by two ways. If you flip the card over, it will say common, uncommon, or rare. It will literally say that. So that is kind of your surefire way, is to just flip the card over, read the back of the card. Come on, let's get back to that, right? But also they will look different. They have slightly different card design, but then also I believe different poses as well.
Different poses, yeah.
Across the rare, uncommon, and common. So yeah, looking forward to that. That'll be cool.
So, Scott, Legends, which we love to see that they've continued to bolster the roster. A couple new additions. Yeah. One very interesting addition.
Yeah, Legends, again, I think Formula One, there's 20 drivers, right? So they're going to need to continue to expand this Legends set to just add more names, right? Outside of it just being F2, F3, etc. I think we're going to continue to see the Legends set grow. And yeah, I'll go through the left-hand side here, and then I'll let you go through the right, and we can kind of just talk through them. But so Emerson Fittipaldi, 2-time world champion. This is the first time he's been included ever in a Topps Formula One licensed product. So he's going to be in there. James Hunt is also going to be in. Now, James Hunt we did see in Eccellenza this year. But so this is the second product, I guess, that he's been included in. Jackie Stewart he is an absolute legend of the sport. I mean, Jackie Stewart, I actually have a picture from a magazine of my stepdad with Jackie Stewart from way back. I mean, we're talking, man, it had to be, I think, the 70s. So Jackie Stewart's been around for a while, massive legend of the sport. And so this is the first time he's ever been in a product. So I guess Emerson Fittipaldi and Jackie Stewart, we could say first appearance here for them. And then we've got David Coulthard, who we've seen in pretty much every single product that a legend has been included in. Ayrton Senna, who's also been in most products that we've seen for legends. Gerhard Berger, who was in Eccellenza again in 2024, but he's making a comeback here in Finest. And then, and I'm thinking this may have been the one here that you were talking about, but an interesting inclusion here, Kimi Räikkönen. And so Kimi Räikkönen has been in sets before. He was in 2020 with a full suite, portrait, everything. He was in 2021 with portraits, autos, all that. 2022, he made a small appearance with his driver of the day card. And then since then, we haven't seen him in any products. So really cool to see him coming back as a legend. And then I'll let you take over the right-hand side here.
Yeah, then Michael Schumacher, Nigel Mansell, Mario Andretti making another appearance, Mika Hakkinen, Alain Prost, Montoya, and we've got Senna's so good, we've got him twice.
We love him so much.
We love Ayrton. We had to make sure that both of us, he is twice the legend that everybody else is. So, and again, it's great to have them included here again because of licensing and copyright and stuff. None of these guys can have the original advertisements that were on their race suits and whatnot, which is unfortunate. But on the other hand, for long-term fans of the sport, I think we have continued to look past that. And I'll tell you what, I mean, just again gushing over the Michael Schumacher Dynasty 1/1 card. That was, I mean, I have to say, seeing that in hand, holding it in my hand, I just felt like a piece of history. Like it was incredible. One of the coolest things I've had an opportunity to do with, prepping cards. Anyways,
I will say, I think they've done a better job as they've moved on, right, in the Legends suite of cards in terms of kind of those, can't show the sponsorships and everything. I think they've looked better and better every year and every product that we've seen them in. So that's good. Also, and I won't go too deep on this, but I know that you've been known to, from time, collect Pokemon cards. Have you ever seen any of those Pokemon cards where it becomes an art card? So someone takes the Pokemon card and then paints over the whole thing to make it kind of like a full art
I have
version
seen
of the
those.
card.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Ooh,
that ever
challenge.
becomes a thing in Formula One where some artist gets a hold of these cards and then paints in all of the original sponsors. I think that would be an interesting little niche there for someone who has the skill set, which I certainly
No,
don't.
it'll look
Please no.
if I did it, it would look like a 5-year-old. It'd look like little Seb was filling it in.
Same. But yeah, I'd be curious to see that.
So Scott, some of the legends that are in the base set here.
Yeah, so now this is important, right? Because some of the legends that are included only have, relics or just dual autos, etc. So the ones that you're going to see more cards of are Kimi Räikkönen, James Hunt, Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, Alain Prost, and David Coulthard. So I think the five kind of, the usual suspects of Schumacher, Senna, Mansell, Prost, and Coulthard are all here. But then it's really nice to see Kimi Räikkönen and James Hunt included here in the base. So yeah, we're going to see decent amount of cards. These will likely be the most expensive spots in breaks for legends, just given that they've got base cards. So they're going to have all of those parallels and everything, and just way more cards than an Andretti, a Hakkinen, a Juan Pablo Montoya, etc. So yeah, no, excited to get into it.
I just hope they continue here. And again, I just finally had the opportunity to watch the Braun GP documentary. Fantastic.
So good.
It was so good, so well done. Keanu Reeves actually sounds like he's going to do another documentary style show on Disney Plus about Formula One.
Shout out to Jensen Button, friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Jensen Button. I would love to see Jensen Button in Topps Chrome. Rubens Barrichello, like that would be awesome. Mark Webber. There's so many drivers that a lot of collectors that are currently collecting would love to see drivers from that era. Now, did they win World
Red Bull card? Come on, give it to me.
Yes. Well, I mean, it wouldn't actually be Red Bull card, but maybe. I don't know. Sponsors? I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows?
See, my hope with that is that it's recent enough that they can get those sponsors, because a lot of it becomes like, oh, well, it's tough to get sponsors because a lot of the sponsors back in the day are, tobacco, alcohol type of stuff that they're never going to include on cards that are meant for children.
Mm-hmm.
But also that, it's sponsors that either aren't around or they can't get the rights to that type of stuff. But I mean, 2014, it's not that long ago. We'll see. Never know.
Anyways, Broad GP, check it out.
Yeah, Jensen Button, friend of the show.
Legends Auto. So again, a lot of the same names. So the new additions here, Scott, with Jackie Stewart having autographs, which is fantastic. Emerson Fittipaldi. Berger was in Eccellenza. Prost.
Did he have autos in Eccellenza?
I believe he did.
I think he did. Yeah, I never pulled one, unfortunately. But
Prost, right. Coulthard, Mansell. Looks like some duels with Montoya and Räikkönen. Good to see another Räikkönen auto, Andretti and Mika Hakkinen. So good autos there from our legends.
Yeah, love to see it.
Relics, love to see relics, especially for some of these legends.
Yeah, I mean on the legends side, so there is one dual relic for legends, and that's Nigel Mansell and Michael Schumacher. Interesting pairing, but they're included together, and then Gerhard Berger. So now. Did Berger have relics in Eccellenza?
I think just autos.
Yeah, I was going to say, I never saw one. So yeah, so maybe this is potentially, and in fact, check this, please. But I think this is Berger's first relic. Hakkinen, obviously we've seen relics from Hakkinen in Dynasty, so this isn't new for him. Schumacher, we've seen a couple of those, especially in Dynasty. But it's cool that Schumacher's in there, and then Kimi Räikkönen. Yeah, now I'm curious because Raikkonen, it looks like he's in like the blue silverish kind of suit from when he first started, when he first came into Formula One. So I'm curious if that, like, those are the type of relics that they're including, or is it going to be like Alfa Romeo stuff? I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah,
the one image I've seen of Raikkonen, he was either in, it looked like actually a Ferrari suit. It was all red. So
wow. Well, look at that, because I remember I've seen a dual auto of him get pulled in, or maybe, I don't know. I got to go back and look. It's tough. We can't show the images yet.
we will not show the images. We do not want Scott in trouble with Fanatics and Tops. And it's not the right thing to do, because we take the moral high ground here.
That's true.
Again, inserts, a lot of the same names here, with Fittipaldi and Jackie Stewart being new. And again, inserts are a great way to get more collectability.
Yeah, and Senna again. We're doubling up on Senna because his inserts are twice as fun. So we had to include twice. But I think again, this actually just goes to show every single legend has inserts. So that is cool. Some of them may only have one. I know for a fact actually that a few of them only have one insert. But it's cool that they all have inserts. So you'll see cards from every driver in the set.
So now we've got the chance to talk about what is missing from the set, Scott.
Yeah, and so this was funny because I obviously was on vacation the past week, and I wanted to get the breaks posted before I went on vacation on Fanatics. So no checklist was out. So I kind of did the best I could looking at, Paddock Pass, which is supposed to be a set that's similar to this, and Chrome, and put it together. And ultimately, there will be some spots I'm going to have to refund because they are not in the set. And so I'll talk about those first, and that's going to be reserve drivers. So this is, Jack Doohan, not in the set. Liam Lawson, not in the set. Teo Pourchaire, not in the set. And then, that all other reserve spot that kind of encapsulated everybody else, they're not in the set. And then Logan Sargent, not in the set. Colapinto gets a rookie card in this for Williams. And then Daniel Ricciardo actually not in the set as well. And they do not have anyone that replaces him, right? So Yuki's actually alone for VCarb. So yeah, so those three kind of subsets of cards and drivers you will not see in the product at all. And what else do we have that's missing here, Brian?
Does not appear to have any autographs for Max Verstappen.
Yeah, no, this is an interesting one because, listen, as we get more and more products, I feel like this is going to happen more often. If you look at other products, especially like, soccer, baseball, basketball, football, etc., not every athlete has autos. Even some of the good ones don't have it in a certain checklist. A checklist will come out. Now, granted, they have like 30 plus products a year. And so it's like, oh, okay, this product has the Messi autos but no Ronaldo. And then this one has Ronaldo, but no Messi. And you kind of pick and choose from there. And so this one, no Max. And it's interesting because I know Lewis does have autographs in here, but I go back to Paddock Pass. And if you looked at Paddock Pass, the green autos for Lewis were out of 2. Green autos for Max were out of 3. And there's little differences like that where Max maybe had more autos included in a product like Paddock Pass. And then ultimately they're like, oh, no, we don't have any stickers left. So they couldn't include him here in Finest. And again, I don't think this is Panic Station, right? Max is still going to have some amazing cards in here, some superfractors, etc. But the price probably won't be as expensive as Lewis. Like, for instance, I had Max and Lewis listed at the same price. I'm going to be reducing Max's price by a bit, not a crazy amount, but it will be going down just for the fact that there are no autographs of Max in the product. But I also don't think, again, this is something to be panicking about. Some people are like, oh, is Max never going to sign for Topps again? And I don't think that's the case. But yeah, interesting to see.
It will be interesting to see indeed. All right.
And again, we'll be ripping on April 10th, which is the release date. Although, and don't go crazy yet, but Topps on Monday this morning, I think, released, products coming out this week. And Formula One Topps Finest was not listed on those products. Now, I'm hoping that is because it was supposed to be out last week, the 3rd of April, and maybe something happened, miscommunication, and in its delay a week, it didn't get announced. But we've been through this before with Sapphire, so I am hoping that I am not going to be midstream on Fanatics and get a call saying I've got to cut my stream because it's been delayed another week. So, yeah, we'll see, but hopefully all is well, and they'll be on Topps website on the 10th of April, and we'll be ripping them on the 10th of April.
Sounds great. All right, a couple last-minute housekeeping items to talk about before we bring this home. This will exceed the 1 hour mark, which I don't think any of our 21 listeners actually. I will say,
we were up to 27 last time. Remember?
I checked the statistics, Scott, and I feel like we're actually over 50 at this point.
I don't believe it.
I don't think there was a boom. I think we were looking at the wrong set of numbers.
I think someone's on there with 2, 3, or 4 accounts and just trying to up it. I can't imagine. That's just too many.
Let's say 30. We'll go with 30.
Okay.
All right. Anyways, big poll recently in the castle.
This was actually right before, literally the night before we left, and I said, no, I'm not doing any personals. I'm not going to rip it all. And I was like, all right, I'll do one. And then the next thing you know, I get to ripping, and we found some paper for my boy Matthew. We found some paper here, and this was great because it's like, okay, do you want to sweat it? What do you want to do? And he's like, see what it is, and then like if it's a helmet, sweat it. And so it was only in like box 3 of a Sapphire case. And so we see redemption card. I'm scrolling down. I'm like, oh, please don't be a blank piece of paper. We see that it's got that second piece on there. So we know it's going to be a redemption. It says redemption, a copy of. Congratulations. You are due to receive a. And then we went down to the next line. It says helmet collection signatures, pad, parage, parallel. And we're like, all right. And we put it back down, and we had it sit up there for a while. And so we ultimately got a peek at it, and it was George Russell. And as the time of opening this, the biggest 3 that you could hit would have been obviously Lewis Hamilton, which hasn't been hit yet, Charles Leclerc, which actually now has been hit, and George Russell. And so we got, one of the top 3. So really, really amazing hit for Matthew. And we, of course, here in the P1 Castle, courtesy of F1 Ben, put together a mock-up of this card. And again, I do want to stress here and reiterate that this is likely not the design, right? So we've just basically taken what the Pad Paraja non-auto looks like or will look like, and then, kind of put together a would-be mock-up here of the autograph. More than likely, I would actually say with 99% certainty, this is not what the card will look like. It might even have a different picture, etc. Although we are going to be pushing for those on-card autos. We're really hoping that they do ultimately have on-card autos. But yeah, so we put together a picture here. It's a beautiful card. This is the second one that we've hit now. We've hit Lando and George Russell, so we've only hit good ones, which is awesome. I'm hoping in my cases over there, we've got the Hamilton. But yeah, beautiful card. Congratulations, Matthew. And that was definitely the biggest card we've hit over the past few weeks. And always beautiful to hit those pads. I know Matthew was really hoping to hit a piece of paper, so happy to do that for him.
Indeed. All right. One big consignment to talk about, and then a couple cards that came through P1 Castle grading that we'll take a look at here.
Whew. Yeah, so this is actually, I think this may be, or no, it's not. So this is the biggest sale we've had from 2024 Chrome, for sure. We did have one Dynasty card that sold for more than this, but this is the Max Verstappen 2024 Helmet Collection Superfractor. Absolutely stunning card, and an extremely impressive sale for $26,500. This is a big CAD, as you would put it. So yeah, huge sale. Congratulations to the seller, and congratulations to the buyer, who now owns one of the best cards in 2024 Chrome and decided to get it graded.
with P1 Castle grading. PSA
Not
10.
a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Sometimes grading a 101, to increase value doesn't always work out, but protection wise, and just I think this is a rare case where I think this will help the value quite a bit.
Oh, yeah,
to have a PSA 10 on this. So card, like you said, Scott, we did a handoff of this halfway between where we both live, and this was overnighted to PSA with a few other cards, and just absolutely stunning. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. It was near perfection.
Beautiful prep work by you, Bryan.
Beautiful. Sometimes it just comes together, and man, when this popped, I was glad to see the 10 on here. So congratulations, and yeah, one of the bigger cards that I've had in hand for a while. Although the Schumacher dynasty was right up there, and actually I think was all within a day or two of each other. So it was definitely a good time at HQ around that. But yeah, congratulations on that. And then shout out to some major incidents. Shout out to our friend Chris with Just an Incident, and a couple helmet collections, which have been, for the most part, doing well. Some of them are a little rougher than others, but we've got a Lewis Hamilton purple color match with Mercedes, with his Mercedes crash helmet here. PSA 10. Very, very nice looking card.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
I was a little nervous. I told Chris on this one, I'm not certain. I tend to be very honest in my takes, and if I don't, conservative is a good way to say it. I was like, ideally, PSA 9 is probably what you're looking at here, but maybe I was just a little too harsh. So we'll take the PSA 10.
That's for sure. 7 out of 10 too. Championship drive number match. So,
and the cream to the crop, an Oscar Piastri red sapphire helmet collection. 1 out of 5 serial number, PSA 10.
Gorgeous. This one pulled in the castle as well.
Pulled in the castle.
Sold in the castle.
And currently, I think Pop 1 have another one that's due to pop soon. That's a PSA 9. So there's maximum of 4 on these. I do think that all of them have surfaced at this point. And I will have seen at least 3 out of the 5.
That's epic.
Incredible. I just consider myself so dang lucky. Not to swear here, but
it's because you delivered the results, Bryan.
Try to stay humble and modest, but
no. So I'll G you up. It's P1 Castle grading. This guy over here. This guy. My point. Nope. This guy right here.
Yeah, Chris was. Sometimes we'll do a case if somebody really wants to submit it under their own account. We'll go ahead and make that happen as well. And Chris was saying that he just kept refreshing for probably 2 or 3 days while it was in assembly, and I was like, "You are going to see an upcharge, on these," and he did, and they upcharged the other card. That I thought.
That's hilarious.
But that's what happens when you get some really good cards. So congratulations. There's so many good cards in the 2024 set. Not without issues with some of them, but when it's just a really good card and there's very few issues with it altogether, and we can help improve it and get it to a 10, it's awesome.
Love to see it.
All right, Scott, I know you kind of just touched on it briefly while you're away, launching p1castle.com.
Yeah.
Throw that into the show
and I think,
outro now.
We can probably, I'd love to kind of talk about it a little bit further on the next episode. But yeah, so p1castle.com is up. Right now, it's primarily got, a lot of the consignment cards that we have up there that are available for sale. But there's going to be a lot more that we're doing with it. And I'll kind of talk through that in our pod that we have later in the week. But yeah, I'm excited for that too, because we're going to get to talk through the pick'em results after we get off of this show. Actually, I'm going to be tallying those and putting together the pick'em results from week 3, or race 3 rather. And we'll talk about finest after actually having opened some of the cards and seen them in person. And yeah, maybe we'll talk a little p1castle.com.
Awesome. Very exciting. I know we're in the meat of the triple header. We have Bahrain this weekend, which will lead to some really exciting racing, and Jeddah to follow that. It's going to be a great time to be an F1 fan, as That's it always is.
Oh, yeah.
All right, my friend. I think that will put a wrap on the show. Episode 44, the Lewis Hamilton edition. Man,
had a nice PSA 10 hammy in there.
We did have a PSA 10 hammy. I made sure to include that for that very reason.
Love it.
We just came up with that on the fly here. We're not that good. All right, my friend. Let's bring this one home.
All right, everybody. Well, remember, collect your cardboard and keep it carbon.